Hi everybody. So today I am reviewing a book from my From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR. It is called Neither Here Nor There by Bryson. I had an idea planned out for this where I was going to be a certain character, but now I realize this idea for introducing this book may not work out very well if you haven't seen the episode. So let me talk a little bit about the episode that this book connects with before I talk about the book. So I'm going to be this book references the story that Joey tells to Rachel and Ross about backpacking through Western Europe in the one with the videotape. The one with the videotape is the episode where Ross is a little bit uncomfortable that he hasn't had sex in a while, so he goes to Joey for help, and Joey turns out this story to Ross about, oh, hey, did you hear about the time I went backpacking through Western Europe? And as you can tell, this book is called Neither Here Nor There, Travels in Europe. So that's the reason why I selected this book to review today. Joey also comes up with a alternative name for himself called Ken Adams, and I was going to introduce myself in this video as Kendra Adams in reference to the alter ego name Joey uses, but I figured if you haven't seen the episode, you wouldn't get the reference or the joke. So in this episode of Friends, Ross and Rachel actually go to Joey, and he tells them both to use this story because they're trying to discern who came on to who first in the situation where they're trying to explain who came on to who first when it came to conceiving Emma. This plot is one of the most stupidest plots in Friends. The other plots in Friends that I didn't really care about is the one with the rumor, which is the Thanksgiving episode where Brad Pitt guest stars. I'm going to talk about that episode a little bit more when I review Fight Club, once I read that book. The reason why I'm reviewing Fight Club is because Brad Pitt was in the movie. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch the movie yet. I'm going to wait to see if I like the book first. So with this book, it's kind of like Eat, Pray, Love, where this author, Bryson, who also wrote a book called A Walk in the Woods, which I think I read that for summer reading in either high school or college. So he goes backpacking all through Europe and talks about all of the people he meets and all the experience he has. Kind of like in Eat, Pray, Love, where Elizabeth Gilbert went to 3 different places, India, Indonesia, and Italy. And in this book, Bryson goes all over Europe to talk about the certain experiences that he had when he went backpacking. And when Joey tells Ross and Rachel to use this story about, oh, I went backpacking through Western Europe, I was actually picturing them actually backpacking through Western Europe and going through all the countries and stuff. The specific chapters that I really liked in this book were let's see, Paris, chapter 4, where he talks about Paris, and this connects to Friends because as you all know, in the finale, Rachel gets a job at Louis Vuitton in Paris, which she essentially turns down so she can continue her life with Ross, which I hated. I would have much preferred her to continue her life in Paris and raise Emma as a single mother, because while Ross matures once Emma is born, I just didn't like his trajectory throughout all of the series and how their relationship was pretty toxic. So this section on Paris actually makes me think of the Murder Mystery 2 movie, because in that movie, they have to track down the murderer in Paris, and they're going to throw a bomb off of the Eiffel Tower. Sorry to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it yet. But this chapter makes me think of that scene in the Murder Mystery 2 movie. That has no connection to this Friends episode, but Jennifer Aniston is in this movie as Audrey Spitz. It's the second murder mystery movie with Adam Sandler in it. The other chapter in this book that really stood out to me is the chapters that are set in Italy, because as I have mentioned before, I'm Italian. So I have been to Rome and I have been to Sorrento, I think. And I have been to Florence. So these chapters really put me back into the time when I was traveling around Italy. When I went there in 2008 with my family for my college graduation trip, I have not been back to Italy since then. It is my goal in the next 3 to 5 years to save up enough money to go back to Italy so I can see my family again. And the other chapter in this book that really stood out to me was Austria, because that made me think of the scene at the end of The Sound of Music where they're escaping from the Nazi regime and they're traveling over the Austrian Alps to get to their new home. So that's what I really liked about this chapter. I've never actually been to Austria or any of the other places mentioned in this book. Some other places that Bill Bryson travels to in this book include Yugoslavia and Belgium and Germany and Sweden. So those are places I like to go someday too. So this book really introduced me to a lot of other places in the world I would like to see someday. So that's what I really appreciate about it. And I gave this book 4.5 stars for the atmosphere. Unlike Eat, Pray, Love, which I gave 3 stars to, I gave Eat, Pray, Love 3 stars in comparison to the 4.5 stars of this book because I thought the character in that book was really self-entitled. Eat, Pray, Love is a memoir that Elizabeth Gilbert wrote after she got divorced, and it was about her trying to find herself by traveling to these various countries, and the Italy chapters were the only chapters that I liked, much like the Italy chapters in this book, because it made me think of my vacation when I went on with my family for my college graduation, where I sightsaw around Italy in Tuscany and Florence, and I'm actually going to be watching the movie of Eat, Pray, Love in a couple of weeks for our series where we watch romantic comedies with Julia Roberts in it. We're also going to be, in addition to Eat, Pray, Love, we're also going to be watching My Best Friend's Wedding and Pretty Woman. The other Julia Roberts movie that we watched last year was Notting Hill, which is set in England, and that's another place that I really want to go. So if you have never read this book before, you should definitely read it. I'm also going to be probably rereading A Walk in the Woods again, because that wasn't initially on my TBR for books that I read in high school and college, just my opinion changed. But since I've read this book, I'm really inspired to reread A Walk in the Woods to see if my opinion of that book has changed. So if you have read this book, please leave me a comment below about what chapters were your favorite. And I highly recommend this. It is one of my favorite books that I have read on my Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR. And in the tier ranking, spoiler alert for the tier ranking video I'm going to post, this book will be in the tier I Love That Journey for me. The tier ranking video will be out next week, so please stay tuned for that. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the holiday weekend.